told we hold black holes inside.
Oh, it started. Okay, so I know I don't normally do story time things or like talking or speed paints on my channel, but I don't know, if you guys like it, then I might start doing it. But I kind of wanted a way to tell this story without having to do some sort of animation for it, because I'm too lazy. So basically, if any of you have noticed that I haven't posted in weeks, I'm about to tell you why. Also, I am getting over a pretty bad sickness, and like I lost my voice for 3 days. It's just now coming back, so I apologize if it's like raspy and gross. But basically, I had gone to visit my dad, and before I talk about this story, I just want to get across that it was amazing. I love my dad. I loved seeing him. I loved spending time with him and the family, and everyone was great, and they were so welcoming, and they made this trip amazing regardless of everything that happened. So to start it out, I'm just gonna say I was staying at my grandma's, and they had a cat, Frankie, and she was really sweet, but they told me that I couldn't let her in my room because they were suspicious that she had fleas. But she kept meowing outside my door, so of course I gave in and I let her sit on my bed, and I was just petting her for a little bit, but I just put her out by the time I decided to go to sleep, and I didn't think much of it. So I woke up the next morning and I had all these weird bites like on my arms and legs, and I just assumed that they were probably flea bites because I had let Frankie on my bed. And so I changed out my sheets, I got everything taken care of, and I decided not to let her in there at all because obviously I'm getting bit. So the next night I went to go to sleep, but I woke up at 4 a.m. just itching like crazy, and I decided I wanted to go turn the light on because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't get the itching to stop, so I turned my light on and I looked, and I had so many more bites like on my legs and arms. I had like a huge like cluster like right under my arm, and I was so confused because I had like washed all my sheets, I'd cleaned everything, and I'm still getting these bites, and I hadn't let Frankie in my room. And as I was thinking about this, and as I was thinking about calling my dad, I looked down on my pillow, and there was a huge fucking bed bug. Like, it was gigantic. So I freaked out, of course, and I called my dad, and he came and picked me up, and he let me sleep in his bed for the rest of the early morning after we had cleaned my, changed my clothes, and I kind of washed off just to make sure that I didn't have any on me. And I stayed at my dad's for a couple weeks after that. We didn't have a shower like with hot water at his place, so typically we'd go over to my grandma's or to my Aunt Susan's in order to shower. And one evening we were going kind of early, and we were going to get into the van, and I was sitting in the back, so I opened the back door and I got in, and then my dad had mentioned to my brother to close the door for me, and for some reason I felt the need to make this joke like, no, I'll do it myself. And I reached back to close the door, and I felt this like excruciating pain on my hand, and before I could register what was going on, I started screaming, but I saw a wasp out of the corner of my eye, and I was trying to scream that there were wasps in the car because I was worried because my brother is like deathly allergic, and I wanted him out of the car because there's like a bunch of wasps. So, but I was just screaming like hysterically crying, and my dad had got out of the car and like came over and started fighting the wasps and was like swatting them all over the place. And he actually ended up tripping and falling trying to dodge one, and it was chaos. And for some reason I was still in the car at this point. I was just kind of in shock, and I didn't know where to go. I didn't know if I jumped out I would get stung again because they were kind of flying around. And while that was all going on, another one came and stung my foot, and at that point I was like, alright, and I just kind of hopped out of the car and just hobbled out. And my brother was kind of out in the parking lot, so he came and like grabbed me because I couldn't really walk because of my foot. And I was just like crying, and my dad's fighting these wasps, and it was chaos. Eventually he got rid of them. It was fine. We checked the van every day for the rest of the time we were there after that incident. After that, after a little while longer of staying at my dad's office, my aunt offered a room over at her place. So I was like, yes, of course, like I wanted my own room. So we got me all set up there, and I had moved in, and I laid down for the night, and I went to sleep. The first night went fine. I was like, great, this is perfect. Like, I have a working shower here. I can take a shower as late at night as I want, and it was great. The second night, we had moved in my comforter from before after we'd like washed it and dried it, thinking that it was safe. And we were like, all right, great, now I have a blanket. So I laid down to go to sleep that night, and I did, and I woke up at 4 in the morning with even more bites, and I was so confused, and I thought maybe it was the comforter because it was at my grandma's before, and maybe they all didn't die when we put it through the dryer. And so we just took the comforter out, we washed everything, like we even like bombed in the room, like we tried to make sure we killed anything that might have gotten in there, and I moved back in that night. I was laying in bed around 9 p.m. and I was just staring at the ceiling, and I noticed like this little speck, and I was curious about it. For some odd reason, I felt the need to kind of just get up close and take a picture. So I did, and I got up close with my phone, and I zoomed way in, and when I did, I realized, oh my god, that's a bed bug. Like, it looked like the tiniest black speck, but it was a bed bug. So I texted my dad, I said, there's a bed bug in here, I'd see it on the ceiling. So he came and got me, we changed my clothes, I washed myself down, and he let me sleep in his bed. At that point, we had decided that I wasn't going to go back to either of those places until they were treated by professionals. So during the span of time in which I was staying with my dad, something else happened. His office, his little area where he was staying, was actually connected to my grandma's shop. So it was kind of like her shop and then a back area, and that connected to this living space where he was staying. And because of that, we were able to help my grandma out a lot with things in the shop. And one day I had walked out of that back room, and in that same back area there's also a door that goes into the back storage area. And I had noticed that there was water gushing from under that back door at a rapid pace, and I was surprisingly very calm about the whole situation. I kind of just looked at my dad and said, yeah, there's water where it's not supposed to be, and this isn't good. So immediately everyone kind of jumped on it. We were trying to shovel this water into the bathroom before it kind of got out into the shop, because of course there's like a lot of stuff in there. There were nice carpets, there was nice furniture, there was electrical things, and while my brother's trying to get all of this water into the bathroom, everyone else is trying to get cords and electronics off of the floor before the water reaches that point, which we successfully did, and everyone came out of it safe. Eventually we got all the water cleaned up, but I had realized afterwards that the reason that had happened is because there was a huge storm, number one, and number two, there was just this sort of dip in the back driveway that drove up to the back of the shop. There was this dip that just allowed water to collect, and then on top of that, the garage door didn't close all the way, so it was just kind of seeping under into the back of the shop, and then it would seep into the shop itself. We got everything cleaned up. It did take a while, but no one was hurt and everything was fine. And yeah, that's the end of that little adventure there. After that, I actually ended up getting a call from my aunt saying that the professionals had come and treated. They told her that there was no live activity in my room, and they told her that it was safe. They gave her the right away. They said, yes, it's safe, I can move back in, there's no activity, and they treated it on top of that. So I decided to move back into that room because, you know, it's, you know, the professionals' word. They said it was safe, so it must be, right? So I moved back in, I moved everything in, I moved my whole desktop, I moved my clothes, I moved my food, I moved my sheets, and just everything. So again, I was laying down on my bed late at night, kind of before I start to wind down and go to sleep, and I looked up at the ceiling and I saw another little dot, and I thought, Jesus Lord Almighty, please don't let it be a bed bug. What am I, the bed bug finder? And I was like, well, I might as well be safe. I can't just ignore it. So I got up close, I took a picture, I zoomed in, and behold, a bed bug. So I actually ended up in denial at first. I just angrily went to take a shower, and I ended up texting Jerry like, oh my god, I can't believe this. I don't want to go back to the office. I just got all my stuff moved here and blah blah blah, and I was so upset. And she was like, oh my gosh, Vaughn, like, just go back to the office. I know it sucks, but it's better than getting bites. And she was like the voice of reason, you know, coming from the skies. And I was like, alright, okay. So I texted my dad, and I took a shower, and he came and got me, and I ended up staying at my dad's office for the rest of the time. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the end of the story, except for I got some chigger bites on my feet the day before I went to the airport, and that was pretty painful. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it, the end. So, also, Cher was on our airplane with us, so that was pretty cool. I thought I'd mention that, but yeah, that was fun. So, the end. I guess if there's any speed paint left, you can enjoy that. Bye!
You are the who, love is the what, and this is the why.